the whole Rihanna incident happened. A lot of that changed my life.
Chris Brown has his first herpes outbreak from his celebrity girlfriend who he was set up with, and it was supposed to be this and it was supposed to be that, and he was there so people wouldn't pay attention to the fact that she was sick.
And that night at that Clive Davis party, that I made sure the person that I was involved with before, I said, hey, you can't come around to these places. And the person comes in. I look over at Rihanna and she's bawling, she's just crying. In the middle of the ceremony about to start, she's just crying. And I'm like, yo, please, babe, don't do this. She starts going off, she throws the phone, I hate you, whatever. Starts hitting me. We're in a little Lamborghini. She's fighting me and I'm like, look, I'm telling you the truth, I swear to God.
She ruined him at 19 years old. He's got the Jay-Z herpes.
Oh!
And it's unfair.
What if I told you that the Rihanna and Chris Brown scandal wasn't just about two young stars in a toxic relationship?
And that night at that Clive Davis party, that I made sure the person that I was involved with before, I said, hey, you can't come around to these places. And the person comes in.
What if it went deeper, into a web of power, betrayal, and manipulation? Was Jay-Z's close relationship with Rihanna the spark that lit the fire?
Chris Brown has his first herpes from his celebrity girlfriend who he was set up with, and it was supposed to be this and it was supposed to be that, and he was there so people wouldn't pay attention to the fact that she was sick.
And how did Clive Davis, one of the most influential figures in the music industry, play into Chris Brown's alleged sacrifice?
She starts going off, she throws the phone, I hate you, whatever. Starts hitting me. We're in a little Lamborghini. She's fighting me and I'm like, look, I'm telling you the truth, I swear to God.
To understand how this scandal allegedly spiraled out of control, we first need to look at Jay-Z's unique connection to Rihanna. Rihanna was signed to Jay-Z's label, Roc Nation, early in her career, and he quickly became her mentor and confidant. Many speculated their bond went beyond business. Reports of Jay-Z spending extra time grooming her career and guiding her image sparked rumors about their relationship. For Chris Brown, Rihanna's closeness to Jay-Z raised red flags. Multiple sources claim Chris grew suspicious of their dynamic, fueling tension between the couple. You see, Rihanna's rise to fame began when she was just 15 years old, after being discovered by record producer Evan Rogers while she was vacationing in Barbados. Rogers was immediately struck by her presence and unique look, stating, "If that girl can sing, then holy ish." This encounter led to her first single, Pon de Replay, being recorded and sent to various record labels. By December 2004, Rihanna's demo landed on Jay-Z's desk at Def Jam, where he served as president of the label. He was so impressed with the young singer that he allegedly told her there were only two ways out of the meeting room: through the door with a signed contract, or through the window if she refused.
There are two ways to leave here, either through the door with the deal signed, or through this window, and we're on the 29th floor. So you was like, where's the pen? Where's the paper? I'm signing.
Rihanna signed with Def Jam that night, marking the start of her meteoric rise to stardom. Under Jay-Z's guidance, Rihanna went on to release a string of hits, including Umbrella, which became a global anthem. Their professional relationship seemed unshakable, but rumors of a romantic involvement persisted. Celebrity biographer J. Randy Taraborelli fueled these rumors in his book, Becoming Beyoncé: The Untold Story, where he claimed that Jay-Z and Rihanna were romantically involved as early as 2005. According to the book, Beyoncé was so uncomfortable with the situation that she briefly split from Jay-Z for a year due to her suspicions. Things allegedly took a dramatic turn when Chris Brown realized that Rihanna had allegedly infected him with herpes. For context, back in 2009, Chris Brown pleaded guilty to assaulting Rihanna, a shocking event that captured global headlines. But beneath the surface, there was another story that Chris later revealed. He claimed that Rihanna had given him herpes, which was the catalyst for much of the tension between them. According to Brown's $10 million pro se complaint, he alleged that Rihanna failed to disclose her condition, and when he threatened to take legal action, things escalated. Brown claimed that Rihanna then attacked herself and made it appear as though he was the one who assaulted her, flipping the narrative entirely. In his lawsuit, Chris stated that Rihanna's attack on him was not only physical but psychological. He described waking up one morning with 3 blisters on his private parts, leading him to panic about his health and the risk of spreading the infection to others. He went on to say that this discovery shattered his relationship with Rihanna and ruined his plans to propose to her. He even wrote the song Don't Wake Me Up as a tribute to their relationship, which was ultimately doomed by what he alleged was her betrayal.
Too much light in this window. Don't wake me up.
Chris's accusations didn't stop at the herpes allegations. He claimed that Rihanna's actions and lies cost him millions of dollars in lost endorsements and job opportunities. According to Chris, Rihanna's story of the as-ult was a calculated move to shift the public's perception in her favor and damage his career. These accusations created an even more complex narrative behind their infamous altercation. But as the public tried to digest these claims, more rumors began to surface, raising the question, did Rihanna give herpes to someone else? A model who had previously worked with the singer came forward with allegations that he, too, had contracted herpes after being with her, adding another layer of controversy to an already scandalous situation. However, the story gets even more convoluted when we look at where Rihanna might have contracted the virus. According to Jaguar Wright, a well-known figure in the music industry who has never been shy about exposing dark secrets, the source of Rihanna's herpes infection may have been Jay-Z.
Like, people don't understand what happened that night. And that's because Jay-Z worked so hard to change the narrative of that night.
Jaguar Wright claimed that Jay-Z's involvement with numerous women, including younger artists like Rihanna, may have led to him contracting herpes and then passing it along. Wright's statement suggests that Jay-Z had an affair with Rihanna in her early years at Def Jam, when he was a mentor to the budding star. If true, this would place Jay-Z at the center of the entire scandal, connecting the dots between his alleged affairs and Chris Brown's claims of contracting herpes from Rihanna. Now you might be wondering, where does Clive Davis fit in all this? Fans have long speculated that the infamous fight between Chris Brown and Rihanna was not just the result of a troubled relationship, but a carefully orchestrated event. At the center of these theories is Clive Davis, a legendary figure in the music industry known for his ability to shape careers and control narratives. Chris Brown himself admitted that the night of the Clive Davis pre-Grammy party in 2009 changed his life forever. But what really happened that night? According to Brown's account in his documentary, Welcome to My Life, things started to unravel when a woman from his past, whom he had confessed to being involved with, unexpectedly showed up at the party. Brown claimed he had specifically told this woman to avoid attending events he and Rihanna would be at, yet there she was, walking straight to their table.
And that night at that Clive Davis party, that I made sure the person that I was involved with before, I said, hey, you can't come around to these places. And the person comes in, comes right to the table and says, hey, what's up, y'all?
Fans couldn't help but notice the strange coincidence. If Chris had no knowledge of her attendance and had actively asked her to stay away, how did she end up at one of the most exclusive parties in Hollywood? To make matters worse, the woman reportedly sent Chris a text message saying she would be there, a message Rihanna later discovered on his phone. This discovery set off an emotional chain reaction, leading to the tragic events that followed. It was the perfect storm. Rihanna, already hurt by Chris's confession about this woman, was blindsided when the same woman appeared at the party. Fans have theorized that Clive Davis, known for his calculated moves in the music industry, might have played a hand in orchestrating the situation. Davis had a reputation for using controversy to elevate his artists. Some believe he may have invited the woman deliberately, knowing her presence would spark drama between Chris and Rihanna. After all, the scandal that followed ultimately benefited Rihanna's career, catapulting her into superstardom while Chris faced public and legal fallout. But why would Clive Davis do such a thing? According to industry insiders, Davis had vested interests in Rihanna's career and connections to Jay-Z, who was heavily involved in shaping her public image. Chris's recollection of the night paints a picture of chaos and mistrust. After the woman's unexpected arrival, things seemed to calm down momentarily as the couple enjoyed a few drinks. But when Chris handed Rihanna his phone to prove he wasn't hiding anything, she discovered a message from the same woman.
And the rest of the message said, I'll see you at the Clive party. So, off that, she thought I was lying. She starts going off, she throws the phone, I hate you, whatever. Starts hitting me. We're in a little Lamborghini. You know, she's fighting me, and I'm like, look, I'm telling you the truth, I swear to God.
Rihanna's discovery of the text reignited her feelings of betrayal, leading to an explosive argument that carried on into their car ride home. Fans argue that the series of events, the woman showing up, the mysterious text, feels less like a coincidence and more like a calculated setup. Clive Davis's connection to the events raises further questions. As one of the most powerful figures in music, Davis was known for his ability to create stars and destroy careers. By the time the scandal broke, Rihanna was seen as a victim, gaining public sympathy and support, while Chris Brown became a pariah. Critics argue that this narrative shift didn't happen by accident. Davis's influence likely played a role in framing the story, ensuring that Rihanna's career was protected and enhanced, while Chris bore the brunt of the backlash. Adding to the mystery is Jay-Z's involvement. As Rihanna's mentor and the head of Roc Nation, Jay-Z had every reason to ensure her public image remained untarnished. Some fans believe Jay-Z and Clive Davis may have worked together to protect Rihanna at Chris Brown's expense. The events of that night had lasting consequences for both Chris and Rihanna. Chris pled guilty to felony assault and faced years of public scrutiny, while Rihanna emerged stronger, releasing hit albums and becoming a global icon. But fans have never stopped questioning whether Chris's downfall was part of a larger plan. To this day, Chris Brown has maintained that he never intended for the woman to be at the party, and that the events leading to the fight were beyond his control. But the coincidences, combined with Clive Davis's reputation for orchestrating dramatic moments in his artists' lives, have left many wondering, was it all a setup? Chris Brown's career and image was never the same. Prior to all this, Chris, who had skyrocketed to fame with his 2005 debut album, was one of the hottest names in R&B, drawing comparisons to Michael Jackson for his electrifying performances and smooth vocals. Rihanna, on the other hand, had burst onto the scene in 2005 with her debut single Pon de Replay and quickly became a pop sensation. The two met as teenagers during the early stages of their careers, and it didn't take long for their chemistry to blossom into a romance. They started dating in 2008, and the world couldn't get enough of the young power couple. At first, their relationship was kept relatively private, with only occasional public appearances or glimpses of them together. But by 2008, they were becoming more open about their romance, attending high-profile events like the Grammy Awards arm in arm. Fans and the media alike were captivated by their relationship. They were young, successful, and seemed to have it all. To the outside world, Chris and Rihanna appeared to be the perfect match, two artists at the top of their game, navigating fame and success together. But beneath the surface, things were not as picture-perfect as they seemed. By early 2009, tensions in their relationship were reportedly rising, with rumors of arguments and disagreements making their way into the media. The pressure of their careers, their constant public exposure, and the natural challenges that come with young love were beginning to take their toll. Still, no one could have predicted what would happen next. On the night of February 8th, 2009, just hours before both were scheduled to attend the Grammy Awards, everything changed.
Chris Brown set to appear in court this morning to face charges from that alleged beating of his girlfriend Rihanna.
This wasn't the sweet, talented kid fans had fallen in love with. The image of Chris Brown, once hailed as the next Michael Jackson, was shattered in an instant. The incident left fans reeling and the media in a frenzy. How could this have happened? How could the golden boy of R&B, someone who seemed to have such a bright future, commit such a horrific act?
I fell in love with that person. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing that that's the type of person that I fell in love with.
The fallout from the incident was immediate and severe. Radio stations around the world pulled Chris Brown's music from their playlists. His endorsement deals with brands like Wrigley's and Got Milk were swiftly canceled. Fans who had once idolized him turned their backs on him, and Chris went from being one of the most promising young stars in the world to public enemy number one. The backlash was unlike anything the music industry had seen in recent years. The fallout was swift and severe. Radio stations pulled his music, endorsement deals were canceled, and Chris Brown went from being the golden boy of R&B to public enemy number one. Chris was charged with felony assault and making criminal threats, and in March 2009, he publicly apologized for his actions. In his first television interview following the incident, he expressed deep regret.
I felt it was time that you heard directly from me that I am sorry. I have tried to live my life in a way which can make those around me proud of me, and until recently, I think I was doing a pretty good job.
But despite his apologies and attempts to make amends, the damage was done. The public's perception of Chris had changed overnight, and his career would never be the same. For Rihanna, the aftermath was equally challenging. While the public rallied behind her, she struggled with the trauma of the assault and the intense media attention that followed. In interviews years later, she would describe how difficult it was to cope with the incident, especially while being in the public eye. Despite the support she received, it was clear that the incident had deeply affected her, both personally and professionally. In the months following the assault, Chris Brown tried to pick up the pieces of his shattered career. He underwent court-mandated anger management classes, completed community service, and made several public apologies. But while he was legally doing what was required of him, regaining the trust of the public and the industry proved to be much more difficult. One of the most memorable moments in the aftermath of the Rihanna incident came in 2010 when Chris Brown paid tribute to his idol, Michael Jackson, at the BET Awards. Chris performed a medley of Jackson's hits, including Man in the Mirror, but midway through the performance, he broke down in tears, unable to finish the song. It was an emotional moment that resonated with many, as it was clear that Chris was struggling, not just with the backlash from his actions, but also with the weight of realizing that his career might never fully recover. In that moment, it was clear that Chris was struggling, not just with the backlash from his actions, but with the realization that he might never become the star he was destined to be. Despite his efforts to rebuild his image, things continued to spiral downward. Chris became notorious for his public brawls, including an infamous fight with fellow artist Drake in 2012. But it wasn't just his temper that was making headlines. It was his growing association with gangs. Although he wasn't raised in a gang environment, Chris has built a strong connection with gang culture over the years, flaunting affiliations that suggest a deeper involvement in that world. However, his ties to the Bloods seem to have emerged later in his life, rather than from any real upbringing in the streets. Chris Brown's connection with the Bloods became more visible around 2014 when he started making headlines for throwing up gang signs during public appearances and in his music videos. His behavior at various events, like his performances and nightclub outings, would often include clear gestures associated with the gang, such as flashing the red bandana and shouting out Blood slogans. This marked a turning point in how people perceived him, moving away from his clean-cut R&B image to something edgier and more dangerous. But Chris's connection to the gang lifestyle didn't end with mere hand signs. He started surrounding himself with people from the Bloods, bringing them into his inner circle. These individuals weren't just background characters in his life, but became a part of his everyday reality. Brown would often be seen at parties, events, and even in his music videos with known gang members, further cementing his association with the lifestyle. His relationship with these individuals extended to his social media presence as well, where he regularly referenced his ties to the Bloods, openly showing his allegiance to the gang.
The only thing about it that bothers me is that they don't know what they're really getting into or could be getting into.
One of the most talked about aspects of Chris's gang affiliation was his behavior at parties and events in Los Angeles. As someone with substantial influence in the entertainment world, Brown began to host parties that often included high-profile members of the Bloods. These parties became infamous not only for the celebrity appearances, but also for their close connections to gang activity. Chris's homes and rented party venues were reportedly filled with Blood-affiliated gang members, further blurring the lines between his music career and the gang culture he had embraced. His affiliation with the Bloods even extended into his music.
Want you, baby, and you can't do nothing for you.
Songs like Loyal and others contain lyrics that reference his connection to gang life, and these references didn't go unnoticed. Brown wasn't just aligning himself with the Bloods for show, he was incorporating the lifestyle into his artistry. From music videos that prominently feature gang symbolism to lyrics that hint at his street affiliations, Chris was making it clear to everyone that his life had taken a turn toward the streets. Perhaps one of the most interesting elements of Chris's gang ties is the way he has managed to balance this affiliation with his mainstream career. Despite his association with a notorious gang, Chris has continued to maintain his presence in the music industry, collaborating with artists across the spectrum and still enjoying commercial success. Even with the dark cloud of gang affiliation hanging over his head, he remains a significant figure in pop culture, proving that his appeal crosses both mainstream and street cultures. At times, Brown's gang affiliations even spilled into his public conflicts and legal troubles. His well-known fights, such as his infamous nightclub altercation with Drake, have often been linked to his ties with gang members. Reports suggest that gang-affiliated individuals from Chris's entourage have been involved in various public altercations, adding a layer of danger to his celebrity persona. These moments of violence, combined with his public displays of gang signs and affiliation, created a more controversial image for the R&B star. There was also a more positive side to Brown's relationship with the gang world. In 2014, he released a single aimed at reducing gang violence, a move that was seen as an attempt to give back to the community. The song, called Don't Think They Know, featured a message of unity and peace, which resonated with many people. It was a glimpse into a different side of Chris, a man who, despite his public affiliations with the Bloods, still wanted to use his platform for good. The single was received positively by both the mainstream audience and those within the gang-affiliated community. Despite his public ties to the Bloods, Chris Brown showed a different side with his release of Don't Think They Know, a single aimed at reducing gang violence. However, shortly after the release of this track, Chris made headlines again for throwing up blood signs at events, which raised questions about his sincerity. While he used his platform to promote anti-violence messages, his continued public association with the gang culture seemed contradictory. Still, Chris's ties to the Bloods didn't fade, and to this day, he remains publicly affiliated with the gang. By the late 2010s, Chris Brown's reputation had shifted from being one of the most talented stars in music to one of the most troubled. His drug use became more obvious, with people noticing strange behavior like twitching and fidgeting during interviews. Even though he was still putting out new music and had a loyal fan base, it was clear he would never reach the level of success many had once expected.
That he's on drugs?
I think he really needs to check himself for that. Yeah, it's a bad thing. It's probably out of his control, but hey.
One of the more noticeable moments came during a 2017 interview on Hot 97, where Chris's twitchy, restless movements had fans and the media worried about his state of mind. Clips from the interview spread quickly online, with many people speculating that his odd behavior was the result of drug use. While Chris had talked about using substances in the past, this felt like a sign that his issues were deeper than people had realized. Another incident that raised concerns happened during a 2016 concert, where Chris appeared to be out of it on stage, slurring his words and moving awkwardly. Fans who had once come to his shows for his smooth performances and high-energy dancing were now witnessing a version of him that seemed lost and struggling to keep it together. It was a sad moment for many who remembered the young, charismatic Chris Brown, who was once seen as the next Michael Jackson. He also kept getting into trouble with the law. In 2018, Chris was arrested in Florida because of an outstanding warrant related to an assault charge. This wasn't the first time his name had been tied to violent behavior, and it added to the growing concerns about his mental health and substance abuse. While many of his fans continued to support him, others started to question if Chris would ever get back on track. Even though Chris Brown kept making music and had fans who stuck by him, it started to feel like he'd never really become the superstar everyone thought he'd be when he first started out. Sure, some of that might be on him, but what if Jay-Z and Clive Davis had a hand in holding him back before he even had the chance to shine? We might never know for sure, but the more people look back on his story, the more it feels like a sad, what could have been. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.